small rebel force has penetrated the shield and landed on Endor.
This is where the fun begins.
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
This is Rebel Force Radio.
Your source for the Force.
Star Wars news and commentary.
With Jason Swank and Jimmy Mack.
I've seen Star Wars 500 times.
Star Wars #1!
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe. I suggest we use it.
Now it's time for Rebel Force Radio.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Well, I just love this time of year. It is the official kickoff of the holiday season here at Rebel Force Radio with a show that I look forward to every year. It's our Thanksgiving show. Now, we'll have something that will be, of course, on the podcast feed for everybody next week when it's actually Thanksgiving week. But this week, as we have done many years before, we like to give thanks to you, all of the Rebel Force Radio listeners and viewers, for all your support over now almost 20 years of podcast adventures that we've had together. And man, oh man, we have seen a lot over the last couple of decades. And we're going to continue to see a heck of a lot more because I'm very excited for the 50th anniversary of Star Wars. I think it's going to really be great for the franchise, great for the fandom. But getting back to Thanksgiving, as like I said, we do this time of year, we like to give thanks to you and just respond to a lot of your listener voicemails. So it's an expanded listener feedback segment all throughout the show. We do have some news. There's new comments from Jon Favreau about the Mandalorian and Grogu film, the next Star Wars film, the first Star Wars film to hit theaters in 7 years. And if there's time, you know, if we make it through all of the incredible material that's been prepared for you, we might even get to Star Wars in pop culture. So we might as well get to it on this very special episode of Rebel Force Radio as we ring in holiday season for 2025. And by Rebel Force Radio, I mean me. My name is Jason, and with me, as always, holiday time, non-holiday time, all the time, my good friend and yours from Chicago, Jimmy Mack.
Hey, Jason. Hey, Star Wars fans. You know, it's always a holiday when we get together to talk the wars, regardless of what time of year it is. But here we are. It's Thanksgiving time. And a lot of people are buzzing about this Life Day also. You know, that's because that's really picked up steam since Disney acquired the Star Wars brand. You know, there's certain things that the Disney company has really latched onto. And Life Day Elements is one of them. But God forbid they should put that holiday special up on Disney Plus. Otherwise, you know what, that was probably in some of the legal language that George Lucas used in the contract when he sold Disney, or the contract. What is that paperwork they signed? You know, the transfer of ownership.
Are you talking about
Lucasfilm
when George looked like he was about to throw up all over the desk as he was?
He did. He did.
Signing it all over to Bob Iger? Yeah.
When George Lucas signed the paperwork to relinquish ownership of Lucasfilm to Disney, it's he and Iger sitting there. And, of course, video cameras are rolling because this is a historic event. And George signs it, and he looks up, and it's almost like the plane he's on hit some heavy turbulence suddenly, and he needs a barf bag. He pushes the papers over to Iger and looks away when he does it. That's body language, my friend.
Ooh.
The look away, like, I can't believe Melody is making me do this.
I can't believe Melody. I love that theory that it's all Melody. She's making George get rid of all of his things, you know, from his bachelor pad,
right?
Including, you know, the most successful film franchise of all time.
But look at George watching Iger sign it in this photo you pulled up. I mean, you can just look into George's head like he can't believe it's happening. He's like basically turning his children over to some stranger. And
he had another choice term for what he was signing his children over for on that interview. We won't get into all that. But yeah, I mean, look, for anybody to pretend, even George himself, that this was not significant. And I think if you asked George about it today, I think he would probably have some sort of guarded, maybe somewhat sarcastic remark. But I think for George, I think this was a lot of emotion, and it could be some regret. Who knows what's in there? But there was definitely a lot going on behind those eyes, as you say.
Yeah, 13 years and 22 days ago.
Who's counting?
George Lucas sold his children away.
Yeah,
but hey, we're here to be camp counselors. At least, we can't be the Star Wars parents, but we're the camp counselors, and the camp is in session, and we're going to have a lot of fun with Star Wars stuff this week. But I am really looking forward to hearing from our audience. It's a great tradition we have here at Rebel Force Radio. We've been doing it forever, where we devote a ton of time to listener feedback. So we're going to do that this week. But, of course, it is Thanksgiving. And so naturally, I started combing through the archives looking for some great Thanksgiving moments. Instead of that, I have this, okay?
Uh-huh.
All right. This is an audio recording. I swear to God, I have no idea where it came from. So if you in the listening audience can identify where this bit of audio came from, please let me know. But it's a recording we play every year around this time called Yoda's Thanksgiving Message. Do you have that handy, Jason?
Yeah, I've got it. Here we go. You ready?
Yeah, it's bizarre.
Okay, let's play it.
Once again, spending Thanksgiving alone. I am. All of friends and family that belong to Yoda gone off they have to enjoy turkey, stuffing, and cranberry sauce. But take part in that Yoda will not.
All right. I recognize that voice. I know who that is.
Really?
You don't know?
No, I have no idea.
It's Michael Mack.
No. That is not my son, Michael. I've never heard Michael do a Yoda voice. No. That I would have remembered that one. And I would have written better material for my son, too. I don't know what that is. It is definitely not Michael.
A distinct memory of Michael doing a Yoda.
No,
it might not have been this one.
No, never.
I think we need to hear it again.
Go ahead, play it again, but it's...
Once again, spending Thanksgiving alone. I am. All of friends and family that belong to Yoda gone off they have to enjoy turkey, stuffing, and cranberry sauce. But take part in that Yoda will not.
All right.
What is that creepy music, too?
I don't know.
Listen, a McInerney family production would have been much better than that. I don't even get that thing, but there it is. Yoda's, that's all the file says. Yoda's Thanksgiving message.
Wow. You're going to have to ask, all right, after on the second listen, I don't think that's Michael, but you're going to have to ask Michael if he ever recorded something Yoda for us, because I swear there was something.
There are voices he's done in the past. Gilbert Gottfried being among them.
Yeah, remember the Gilbert, for sure.
And that's when he was a kid.
Yes. But you're right. He hasn't done anything since he became a man on the show.
Yeah, I mean, he's performed at live
but I mean
events
like
and
character
things like
stuff or anything like that.
No,
I don't recall.
I don't really recruit him anymore, do I? Yeah, that's weird.
No.
One thing, though, concerning the family, this is something that we've been talking about doing for a while, and we're saving it for, maybe a month from now, mid-December. A lot of our listeners might remember when my son Dylan was 5 or 6 years old, he took it upon himself to watch the original trilogy from A New Hope all the way through Return of the Jedi. And so just for fun, I did an interview with him about that after he had watched it. And so we thought it would be fun now on his 23rd birthday to bring him back. He's going to watch the original trilogy again. We're going to bring him back, sit him down, ask him the same questions we asked him way back when he was a little kid.
So how old was he the first time?
I think 5 or 6.
5 or 6. Okay, so we're talking about like 18 years later.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So we're going to ask him the same questions we asked him way back when, and we're going to see how his answers now compare to the answers he gave when he was a little kid after his first viewing of the trilogy. And despite the fact that he grew up in this house and he knows Star Wars pretty well, he most certainly has seen all the films and everything, he does feel like he needs a refresher on the entire original trilogy. One sit down, one viewing, over the course of a few days or whatever.
Has he started this rewatch yet?
No.
Okay. All right.
I keep telling him, hey, clock's ticking.
Right.
We're like a month away now.
Right.
You might want to jump on that. But he is gung-ho about this idea.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's going to be pretty interesting.
He can knock that out in a couple of days. That's easy.
Oh, of course
A
it is.
rewatch.
Of course it is.
A rewatch.
Yeah, but when
That'll be
you
fun.
have to do it sometimes. I like having a purpose, when it comes to Star Wars rewatches and stuff, I like to have a purpose for that. And seems like he's got a pretty darn good purpose to rewatch them all. Right. I mean, if he doesn't, he could still probably wing it. Like I said, he did grow up in his house, for crying out loud. He is familiar with the Holy Trilogy.
Of course. Of course. And you know what? Right. Another good excuse is to watch maybe the Disney Plus version, the latest version, so that it's fresh in your mind when you go back into theaters here in about a year plus and experience Star Wars the way it was originally released back in 1977, which hopefully we're all going to be doing. No official word on that, though, as far as what version of the film is going to be re-released to theaters. We're all speculating because of that beautiful print that they displayed and presented over in the UK with Kathleen Kennedy in attendance. And Jim, a lot of people said that she was there to sort of give the screening legitimacy, that this wasn't just some bootleg, that was being bandied about, that this was an actual Lucasfilm endorsed event to see that film. So I actually have had people at the day job come up and ask me about this. So I think this is starting to, this idea of the original Star Wars coming back into theaters, I think it's really catching on.
Well, there's a group of fans who really monitor this stuff very closely. And these are the guys who discovered that footage that was leaked on Vimeo.
Right.
Of, 4K UHD Blu-ray or whatever. I mean, I don't even know. I don't understand all the terminology and stuff with these various grades of quality nowadays in the digital age,
resolution and all that. Yep.
Yeah. When I just see the number, if it's a high number, I'm like, oh, that's probably the best one. So
8K is better than 4K, right?
Yeah. Things along
right.
that line.
1080p is better than 720p. Yeah, you got to figure it out. When the number gets bigger, it's generally better.
But these guys who do all of this sleuthing on the internet, they're very specifically driven in preserving the original cuts of the original trilogy. And they've been discovering all of this information. And it's really, I'll forward some of the stuff to you. I would never reveal my source.
No.
But a lot of the information these guys have been gathering about a restored 1977 version of the original Star Wars being done by Lucasfilm and Disney, it really appears a lot of the evidence is pointing in that direction.
And not just one film, but all three.
I will send you this whole manifesto this guy wrote to me.
Okay.
And I'll let you could probably decipher it a little bit better than me. To the dude who sent all this stuff to me, thank you. My analysis of the information you presented to me is you probably consider what I'm saying right now to be rather flawed, and I don't blame you. But just the bottom line of this all is that these boutique companies that work on this kind of thing do use services like Vimeo to share footage amongst each other as they're working on this stuff from remote locations.
Yeah. And to share it back to the client for approvals.
Yes. And so these internet sleuths, they're all over this stuff. And the bottom line is, it appears that this evidence strongly says there will be a restored version of the original 1977 film that could be possibly the IMAX release. Is that even possible? to put the original film in an IMAX theater? Or what if they keep going? And it ends up in the Sphere or someplace.
It all depends on how the quality of the negative that's left. You could scan that to work in IMAX, I suppose. The problem though with IMAX is that it's a different aspect ratio. It's a little more square.
Yes.
And George had a very wide screen canvas for Star Wars. And so I don't know that I would love IMAX. I mean, I haven't been into an IMAX. So I don't know if there's changes in the way IMAX is presented, but I know that the IMAX aspect ratio is different than what these grand widescreen aspect ratios that like George. I mean, George was so influenced by the big epics like Lawrence of Arabia with, these incredible vistas and stuff like that. So I don't know that would be what I would most look forward to. I just think that seeing it the way it was seen, I've never seen it the way it was seen in theaters. The original Star Wars, A New Hope, never. The only film that I ever saw that I have memory of, vivid memory, is Return of the Jedi. I was told I saw Empire Strikes Back, too young. 4 years old, would have no idea. 6-year-old, I really knew what I was seeing. But was never in a theater for the original. By the time I saw Star Wars on the big screen, it was the special edition. So George had already done some tinkering with that. So I'm thrilled to be able to see it as it originally was. I shouldn't say intended, but as originally presented.
What was the last film you went to a movie theater to see? The only reason I asked, it's just occurred to me today.
Yeah.
That nobody at the day job ever comes back on a Monday talking about the movies they saw in the theaters anymore.
Oh, you're right about that.
Nobody.
Absolutely right about that.
What'd you do this weekend? Oh, well, I didn't go to a movie theater, that's for sure. That's what I hear in the hallways,
Yeah.
And so I started thinking, well, what was the last movie I went to see? I think it was Return of the Jedi when it was re-released.
Yes, that was mine. That was mine.
Yeah, okay. Oh,
that was mine. Yeah, absolutely. Return of the Jedi re-release. Yep.
And then the last IMAX I saw was the Led Zeppelin movie, Becoming Led Zeppelin, which came out earlier this year. So I've been to IMAX within the last year.
Okay.
But nothing drives me to the theater anymore, man. Mm-mm. Oh, I did go to see Superman. That was probably the last movie I saw.
I didn't
see that. Yeah, that was.
I'm going to watch that over the holidays. Yeah. I'm looking forward to that streaming now.
I want to see Fantastic Four. That's one I skipped in the theaters, so I'd like to see that. And Spinal Tap. I'd even go to see Spinal Tap.
I heard it sucked.
I heard mixed things about it. I don't expect much from it. Just like I don't expect much from this Spaceballs sequel. These things, they drop and then they just disappear. Look at all the hype we heard about that Tron movie for years and years. It finally hits theaters, dud, and then nobody talks about it again. And they go back to talking about the original.
Well, here's the other thing that's weird, though. Because to me, I'm looking at the sort of the opposite of that, where you take a movie like Avatar. There's the third Avatar movie, and that's going to come out, and a bunch of people will go see it. It'll be the #1 movie of the year, and then it too will just vanish and disappear, and no one will talk about it again.
Just also disposable.
Right.
Right. It's also disposable. So it makes you long for the days when the original Star Wars was in the theaters for 2 straight years.
Yeah. The internet has just given us the ability to cultivate and curate our own experience to such degree that we don't have a shared experience anymore.
Yes. And so what's so great about being so isolated all the time and talking to Alexa,
Hey,
and
what do you say about my girlfriend?
And wow, I wish I could. I want to draw this. I want to draw this thing. This is a great piece of artwork I have in my mind. I want to draw this. Chat GPT, can you draw this? And then draws it. I mean, it's like, great, I have all this free time now. For what? You have no friends. There's no social life anymore. What are you going to do with your free time there, genius?
You know, I think that I have a lot of hope for. I think my kids' generation. I think they're going to help swing things back because our generation, Jim. It was like we kind of we knew what it was like. Life was like before the internet, before the economy or the Internet of Things, as they call it, and all these incredible services and all the opportunities that it makes. And so I think we kind of went overboard because we didn't grow up with it. So we kind of like, the more I can eat of this. And then the millennials, they really went wild because they were the first like native internet users.
Right.
And Gen Z is coming up behind, and Gen Z is like, I don't know about all this. This seems very phony. This seems very superficial. Where's the meaning? And I just see glimpses with my kids that they desire more than just ones and zeros in a digital experience. So I'm hoping that we'll find a way to sort of meld both worlds together. We can have a great functional real world, or IRL, as the kids say. And then you can have, fun in the digital realm,
Even the fact that people are saying IRL is
in real life.
Yeah, that's troublesome enough right there. It's like, as opposed to what?
Right.
What plane are you on? What dimension are you existing? Hey, you know what? This is our Thanksgiving show, damn it. And now we're like condemning entire generations of people.
I was praising actually the
cheering
generation.
for others. Yeah, we're being very
praising them. But I'll tell you one thing that's not going to change regardless of the generations, and that's our love for Thanksgiving.
and sweet Baby Yoda.
Baby Yoda.
And so now Baby Yoda, more than just being an awesome little Star Wars character and somebody we all rally behind and someone who sells a ton of merch, he also is an official member of the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. He has his own float, not float.
He has the balloon.
He's got his balloon.
Dude, do you know how much these things cost? These balloons?
Must be a fortune.
Check this out. Just the helium alone for an average balloon at the Macy's Parade, these character balloons, is $500,000, $500,000, just the helium.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So it really makes you question the inclusion of Baby Yoda's pram in the parade.
Yeah, couldn't they save like $250,000 by...
Jeez. I mean, it's the most boring Macy's balloon
Well, wait a minute.
It's just
this isn't the pram. This is, I think, supposed to be the little gear shift ball that was on Din's. Remember, he liked that little ball that sits on top of the gear shift, and so I think that's what he's chasing is this little ball.
Oh, I see. Man, this is like super conceptual. But again, with the price of helium being what it is,
yes,
make the ball make it life size, like the actual size it was in the show, just like this little tiny orb floating from him. This giant ball is a little bit of overcompensation and a huge waste of helium gas money. I mean, I'm sorry, but it is. They should put me on the board of directors for the Macy's Thanksgiving Parade. There'll be a lot of changes, let me tell you that. First thing I would do, no lip syncing. No, you got to get out there, Mariah Carey, and you better be singing your ass off. I'm watching.
I don't care that it's 35 degrees outside.
So
I'm from Chicago. That's how we roll. We sing out in the cold.
Are you kidding me? That's balmy. So we're looking forward to the Macy's Thanksgiving Parade. I like putting it on in the morning.
I love it.
As we're doing our early setups of all the food prep and everything. It's in the early setup stage. And you have the parade on in the background. And then occasionally you'll hear them talking about, or you'll hear someone singing, so you'll go in and you'll watch for a minute or two, and you got your cup of coffee. It's just a nice tradition, the Macy's Thanksgiving Parade. And with Baby Yoda there, it's even better. And so as Baby Yoda made his debut, this is, 4
years ago?
2021, maybe?
Yeah, I think this is like year number 4 for Baby Yoda.
2022. There was that pandemic
the COVID year.
break.
Yeah, right.
So I think they took a couple years off. So I'd probably say 2022 is when Baby Yoda finally made his debut at the parade. And God bless him, Al Roker, his head practically explodes when Baby Yoda turns that corner and starts heading toward the broadcast platform.
We welcome a new celebrity to our bouquet of giant balloons, the Funko Pop-inspired Grogu, also known Baby Yoda.
So cute.
Flying high, courtesy of our friends at Funko, Grogu has become a global phenomenon, captivating fans of the Star Wars series, The Mandalorian, streaming only on Disney+.
Funko, together with Macy's and in a collaboration with Lucasfilms, have introduced a limited Macy's balloon bobblehead line. It's now available exclusively on Funko.com and at the Macy's flagship store here on 34th. Are you dying, SG?
Yes, Al and I, we love
So
Baby
good.
Yoda. Look at him, he's so cute.
Baby Yoda! I love you!
Love you, Baby Yoda.
Baby Yoda! The kid. Protect the child.
Al Roker screaming, Baby Yoda, we love you. That sounds like Jimmy Mack at last Star Wars Celebration.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes you just get lost in the excitement.
I realized that they split the cost of this. So you had Funko probably footing half the bill, and then Lucasfilm maybe hitting the other half. So they saved some money there. This is a joint venture.
Should Funko ever go out of business, though? Does that mean Baby Yoda will leave the Macy's parade forever?
Because that's clearly the Funko version of Baby Yoda.
Right, they even merchandised Baby Yoda little bobbleheads. Do you have one? Little Baby Yoda balloon bobbleheads?
I don't. I'm not a big Funko. I like Funko, but I'm not a big collector.
Fine.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
it's hard. They're hard to collect.
Yeah.
Al Roker, awesome. And if Funko does ever go out of business, Lucasfilm, if you want another sponsor, just call us at Rebel Force Radio.
Right.
I think that'd be just right.
We'll kick in $400 or $500, no problem.
Yeah,
for that helium.
Easily. I bet our Patreon supporters will double that. We're talking $800.
I think we could get maybe a finger's worth of helium there.
Yeah. We'll put the RFR logo on the finger too. And you know which finger it's going to be.
Hey, but Baby Yoda will definitely be in the parade this year because of the film. So they'll be promoting that film, pre-promoting the film. So Al will have new talking points. Oh yeah, Baby Yoda will be starring in his first feature film this May as Star Wars roars back into theaters. I can hear it. Baby Yoda!
I love you. He's great, man. And I like at the end, he's like, protect the child.
Yeah.
It's like, he's like, really, then all of a sudden, the gravity of the situation suddenly hits Al Roker.
Yeah, Al went off script and he was thinking back to the other night when he was in the lazy boy chair streaming that Disney Plus show. You can tell Al's the real deal. He knew what he was talking about.
Absolutely. One of us. So before we move on, though, I do want to just pay tribute to Life Day. You can't let it come and go. Did you know this is the 47th anniversary of the Star Wars Holiday Special?
Yeah.
Earlier this week, Monday, May 17th, the exact date, was the date it aired on CBS. Delighting no one and shocking everyone, the Star Wars Holiday Special. But it's grown in time to be one of those so bad it's good kind of things in a lot of people's opinion and everything. My opinion of it still hasn't changed since I saw it during its original broadcast back in 1970.
It's one and only broadcast.
Yeah, right. My reaction to it was largely, what the hell is this? So Steve Kozak, who was the guy who was the executive producer of A Disturbance in the Force, the Star Wars Holiday Special documentary that came out a couple of years ago, he has a book that accompanies it, and an audiobook was released as well.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So I didn't know about the audiobook until recently, and I've been... Ever since early this summer, I've been kind of binging a lot of making of Star Wars audiobooks. And a disturbance on the Force came across my radar. Steve Kozak, read by Kirby Hayborn. Good old Kirby Hayborn checking in to narrate the story of the Star Wars Holiday Special. And there was this one segment where they're talking about the Diane Carroll sequence.
Yeah.
And Itchy is sitting in the middle of the living room, kind of getting off to this erotically tinged
it's very
performance
sensual.
art going on via hologram. Moaning and gyrating in his chair while watching Diane Cannon. And this is a Wookiee, for crying out loud, on network TV during prime time 1978. What are they thinking? So there's an excerpt from the book, A Disturbance in the Force, the audiobook that just cracked me up. And there is an RFR connection, too, so listen closely.
If I ever tell anybody about the Star Wars Holiday Special, the first thing I do is to tell them that there is a scene involving a Wookiee watching pornography on primetime television, says Fanboys director Kyle Newman. I just take people right to that sequence and say, watch this. It's the worst 5 minutes of television you will ever see in your life. It's uncomfortable. It's inappropriate. It's mind-bogglingly awful. And it exists. To this day, it is baffling that this segment was included in a special targeted at kids. It is by far the most bizarre, out of place, and talked about part of the entire 2-hour show. It's not funny or dramatic, nor is it the least bit entertaining. It is inappropriate, tasteless, and about as cringeworthy as anything ever seen on a primetime network show.
All right.
Wow.
Maybe a little hyperbole might have been mixed in there.
Yeah, right. Maybe.
I love the quotes from Kyle, though.
Yeah, right.
I sit them down and I say, watch this.
Yeah. Dang.
Earlier in the book, they're talking to Kyle, and he does drop the code word, which is his secret way of saying hello to us. And that's anytime Kyle Newman uses the term zeitgeist. So, of course,
okay.
Kyle did so on the record here in The Disturbance in the Force. And I don't know.
That's sort of like when Carol Burnett used to like tug her earlobe and would say hello to her daughter. It's Kyle saying hello to Rebel Force Radio when he says zeitgeist. If he says cultural zeitgeist, man, that's a big hello. That's like a kiss.
Yeah, that really is more than just a pat on the back.
Yeah.
It's a pat on the front. But, it's funny. Wendy Snyder once hosted a cooking show on TV, and she said, if I'm thinking of you, I will use the word savory. And sure enough, she was preparing some shrimp scampi one day, and it was savory. I was like, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Savory mac. I like it.
Savory.
I like it.
I'll have a bowl of savory mac, please.
This is so savory. I can't get over how savory this is. Yeah.
That's our very savory tribute to the Star Wars Holiday Special and Star Wars Thanksgiving.
Baby Yoda! I love you!
Rebel Force Radio.
Hey, before we get into our voicemails, this has been sitting on my desk for a few weeks, so I want to say thank you to Will, and excuse me, it's going to be Kusiak. Will is from Jonesborough, Tennessee. Now, you recall Jonesborough, Tennessee. That was the home of the big debate about the Yoda statue right there downtown, if you recall. And there was a big fight to save the Yoda statue. And so the letter says, Dear Rebel Force Radio, thank you for reporting on the debacle with the Yoda statue in Jonesborough. It was really great to see and hear people unite behind a small business that was essentially being bullied. The whole thing is pretty much over at this point, but I figured you guys might want a couple of stickers. So, Jim, I've got one for you. So here it is. This is the official sticker for the Save Yoda in Jonesborough, Tennessee. And I know what a fan you are of ephemera and that type of collectible. But, this is something that, this is kind of going down in RFR and Star Wars history. So I'll get that to you in the mail, along with a
Yoda.
copy of Will's letter. So thank you, Will, Jonesborough resident, thanking RFR.
So has this all been resolved? I mean, what's the update here on the story? Did they have to remove that Yoda statue that was?
No, I think they won. I think they did not have to give up the statue. I think they broke. They caved.
Thank God.
Once Rebel Force Radio got involved,
yeah.
I think they knew the jig was up. It just,
right.
Yeah.
We can't be under this kind of microscope. Let them keep the Yoda statue. Okay.
All right. Well, let's start. Let's dig into the our first course here of listener mail.
Yum.
You must contact me.
Play back the entire message.
What message?
Message, Optimus, the message.
The Emperor commands you to make contact with him. It's a trick. Send no reply.
Hey guys, this is Curtis in Omaha, and I wanted to say that I'm really thankful for you guys because now I'm part of this great community and Star Wars is back in my life. I haven't been able to make it to any of the live events, but I did decide in the last 10 minutes, I just went ahead and upgraded my membership on Patreon because it's well-deserved and overdue. And because Jimmy and Matt Rashid were so damn entertaining on that last Q&A that I need to hear RFR RPG. So I'm going to go back and listen to all those now. I'm really grateful because I've gotten so much that I never would have known of out of this community. I read and fell in love with Lucas Wars, which I swear I never would have known about without you guys. I've gotten some new figures in my collection thanks to Turtle Wars, and I got to open them with my kids, and they were really into it. And I'm so grateful for that moment, so thank you, Chris. I did get an R2-D2 ornament from Robbo in Chicago, and it's going up on the tree this year. I comment and I chat on the Patreon chat rooms, probably too much, but no one seems to mind, or they're nice enough not to let me know if they do, which I'm also grateful for.
No, that's what it's there for.
And also thanks to the inspiration that I've drawn from Star Wars and George Lucas through RFR, I'm finally making time to write a story that I'm really excited about. So thank you for being this kind of good in the world. RFR number 1.
Yes. Wow. Thank you so much. What a wonderful way to kick this segment off. Thank you, Curtis. That's very kind. And I love that he has gotten so much out of all the Patreon VIPs and the personalities over there. So it's great. It's great. So
yeah, I'm thrilled to say the least. But what really makes me excited is that your Star Wars passion and fandom is leading you down some very creative avenues, and you're writing your own story. And I think that's just great, man. And I'd love to read it. Once you think it's good enough for other eyes to see, pass it along to me and Jason. That's really great. And I really appreciate you doing that. And yeah, the Patreon is the place you want to be to embrace a community and be embraced by a community of great Star Wars fans.
For sure. All right. Next one.
Yo, that Obi-Wan Kenobi is the best Jedi ever. This is a man that lost everything but his faith in the Force, and nobody will ever come close. No Jedi.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Short but sweet. Obi-Wan Kenobi, the greatest Jedi ever. No one comes close. It's hard to argue with. I mean, if you look at goodness, and the one that never really wavered in the face of some of the most adverse circumstances, I think you'd have to give it to Obi-Wan. I mean, Yoda, of course, because a lot of times, Jim, when this question comes up, the greatest, well, what do you mean by great? Do you mean the most powerful? Do you mean the most influential? But when I hear the word great, I don't think necessarily the most powerful. I think the one that symbolizes, idealizes the picture that you have in your head when you think of that thing, like the greatest boxer, Muhammad Ali. I think even today, when you think of boxer, Muhammad Ali pops into your mind. He's so iconic. Mike Tyson comes to mind. He's so iconic. So to me, yes, Obi-Wan Kenobi. I would probably have to agree with this as the greatest Jedi.
Well, he certainly is the OG. He's the foundation for each and every Jedi that came in his wake. He really laid down all the groundwork for what audiences assume a Jedi should be and how a Jedi should act. But what I think is really interesting about what that anonymous caller said in a very brief, concise package.
Sounds like his voice
no identification.
This
is something these guys need to know.
Yeah, right. And the voice was like he was in witness protection or something.
Yeah. He cannot reveal his identity. But
it was Ewan McGregor.
Remember? But, Obi-Wan Kenobi, when you talk about the adversity he had to deal with, I think he really had to deal with it in the harshest of ways, more so than Yoda. Because, when Yoda got dropped off at Dagobah, it was like, this is right where Yoda belongs. And he knew it.
Right.
It was a swamp, and there's all these frogs around and everything. And Yoda clearly
just blends right in.
A species that evolved from frogs. Yeah, it just fits right in. The conditions are real humid, which is good for his reptilian skin, unlike that dry air in the Coruscant Towers at the Jedi Temple. So Yoda was just like, oh, great, this is like a spa vacation for Yoda. But Obi-Wan Kenobi, a guy who grew up in a city his whole life, he has to live in a cave in a desert with Jawas and sand people as his only friends. That's a real, that's a tough adjustment to make,
Yeah.
It probably proved more challenging for him to remain connected to the Force. And then if you want to take the Kenobi series into account, obviously his connection with the Force had diminished. And his confidence had diminished a great deal at the beginning of all that.
Here's the thing, though. For a Jedi, let's say take Obi-Wan Kenobi, he committed himself to a cause that he wasn't going, like Luthen from Andor. He talks about starting a cause that he won't see the end of. And Obi-Wan knew that as well. He knew that he was going to oversee and look after this child until such time that it was necessary to bring him into the light, what have you. But with all his skills, and you see him in the Kenobi series, just working there, cutting up meat. They were cutting up the big desert whale or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And with a guy with his talents, he could have used Jedi mind tricks to become wealthy. He could have employed all kinds of, less than savory. That's for you, Jim. Less than savory ways. I think a lot of these guys could have, these Jedi with these powers. I think they could have probably found a way to make their talents pay off.
See, here's the thing about all that, though. Is that I believe the more the Jedi would tap into the Force, the more that would sort of be a beacon to the Sith, Darth Vader and Palpatine. Hey, somebody's over there. Because they always talk about how they can sense the fabric of the Force. There's been an awakening. Have you felt it? Things like that. It's not like they're 100% sure. But if a Force user, I think, really starts going a little overboard, number one, people will start talking. And number two, because you can't fool everyone. Even with the Jedi mind trick, there are those who are not susceptible to it.
True.
It only, it's really at its most functional against people who are really stupid, weak-minded. So
I guess all you got to really do, all you really have to achieve is one good score. right? And then you've got all the credits in the world that you need, and you can go retire. Just saying that that there was other options for Obi-Wan, because I think some people think, well, what else was he going to do? Of course he's going to go to the desert and he's going to look after Luke Skywalker. And I'm like, well, thinking that way takes away the sacrifice. I think it was a sacrifice for him.
Well, he was on a mission, you see.
Yeah.
He was still trying to maintain the integrity of the Order of the Jedi Knights. And Yoda was the head of the council, the same council in which he sat on. And Yoda gave him the mission. Look after the boy, I think were his words.
Yeah.
Keep watch after the boy. That was Michael Mack doing Yoda right there.
I swear I didn't dream it. There's a Michael Mack doing a Yoda in our
I wish he was
archives.
around. I would summon him to the studio and put him on the spot for emergency Yoda impersonation just to see how he would do. But that'll have to be later in the evening. Later in the evening after the show is over.
Right.
Maybe I'll have a microphone
Off
there
air.
for it. That it's worthy of a follow-up, I think. But yeah, with Obi-Wan, he had the mission. And to him, the Jedi Knights were everything. It was his entire life. It was the only life he ever knew. And he was definitely a company man. He was a loyal, law-abiding Jedi. He followed all the rules of the Order. Even, Qui-Gon even kind of snapped at him a little bit in The Phantom Menace. When he kind of got in a little bit of a little friction with the Jedi Council when they stepped outside on that balcony, and he's like, "You could be on the council now if you just listened, you moron." And he's like, "Hey, don't talk to me that way. Mind your place, little boy. I know what I'm doing. I'm Qui-Gon freaking Jinn." Oh yeah, sure, All right, no, don't put the face out.
All right.
All right, I'm not ready to dive into any sort of seances with Qui-Gon right now. Okay, we're talking seriously about Star Wars and Obi-Wan Kenobi being the greatest Jedi of all time. He certainly had the most traumatic existence of any Jedi who survived Order 66. That's a fact, Jack. And so I totally agree with our anonymous caller, who we'll just call Mr. Brevity, who calls in, Mr. Brevity.
Mr. Brevity. Yeah, I have a question for you, and this came up at the day job. I very rarely get questions about Star Wars, but this one came up. Someone asked me, because we were talking about the unaltered, unspecialized edition of the films that we might be getting. And this guy asked me, he said, do you think if George Lucas would have stayed in control of Star Wars, that eventually we would have seen Ewan McGregor at the end of Return of the Jedi in place of Alec Guinness? And my first reaction was absolutely not. But then I started to think about it a little bit, and I'm like, I don't know. I
am under the opinion that whether he sold the company or not, if that was a change George wanted to make post-sale to Disney, I think they would grant him that.
You do?
Oh, yeah.
You think George could still pull those strings?
He was able to get the McClunky into A New Hope years after he had sold the company.
Okay, we gotta find out the story about how was George still able to make those types of edits and changes after the sale. It had to have been in development and in the works prior.
Well, if you remember, George was working on 3D versions of all of the films, starting with the prequels, and then he would get into the original trilogy, and I believe some work had actually gotten underway as far as that goes. Matt Wood.
I was going to say, didn't Matt Wood say something on RFR once about there being a new audio track that he was working on for A New Hope?
I do have some audio of Matt talking about the McClunky that I could share with you.
Oh, yeah, let's do that.
And I will. I will, but can we come back to it?
Yes, we'll come back. We'll swing back.
So Thank you, caller. I think me and Jason do agree with you that there is no contest. Obi-Wan Kenobi, greatest Jedi ever.
Agreed. Yeah. All right. Let's listen. Hey, here's another Jason. This is another Jason from Ohio. This is Jason from Mount Vernon. Wants to talk on this very special episode of Rebel Force Radio.
What's up, Jason from beautiful Mount Vernon, Ohio. And I'm just calling in on this Visions thing, and well, I'll be honest with you. I don't know, I'm OG purist or whatever, I'm not sure, but it to me is kind of like the Last Jedi. It's great science fiction that happened to have a little bit of Star Wars involved. It's not Star Wars. It never will be Star Wars. I mean, it's great to watch, it's entertaining, but take the Star Wars label off of it. It's just great cartoons. Now, you want to do some anime that would be really good? Do the original movie, 1977 release, anime style. Stick to the story. Just do that style of animation. Now there, my friends, you got yourself a movie. That's all I got to say. All right, boys. McClunky.
He says McClunky.
Dang.
Amazing.
Couldn't have written it better. Okay. Adapting. Well, this has been done in manga, in graphic novel form. I think all of the Star Wars films at this point have been adapted into this anime style. Does it make sense to do it, as a film, as an animated movie? I got to tell you, I know it's going to happen. It's inevitable. Just ask the Harry Potter fans. But I have no desire in my lifetime to see any of the classic Star Wars films redone in any fashion. Now, you want to give me those characters in between films? You want to give me an anime style adventure that takes place between A New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back, or one of these stories about Boba Fett transporting frozen Han Solo to Jabba the Hutt or something? I'm there for you. I would love it. But do I want to see a straight up adaptation? I always feel like, what's the point?
Yeah. Maybe something like reviving the expanded universe and making a Shadows of the Empire.
Ooh, now we're talking. Yes.
I mean, that could be neat. My biggest problem with the Star Wars Vision shorts is I'm so non-invested in these characters that they present to us. And it's just like, all right, here's this one. Try to care about this one in 20 minutes. And then rinse and repeat, And it gets confusing. And I just don't care for the storytelling. I really convinced myself that I can't stand anime. And I know that sends shivers down the spine of people listening to this show. But there's just something about the cutesiness of it, the teddy bear droid with the oven stomach. I mean, come on. This stuff is ridiculous, and it doesn't work with Star Wars. The two should never, it's oil and water at this point. I really enjoyed Star Wars Vision Season 2 because it wasn't locked down by the anime nonsense. It was an international group of animation studios that all presented really interesting tales that, I don't know, I thought was far more effective.
So it was a variety of cultures.
Yeah.
In their take.
So you didn't just get stuck in this anime rut where it gets so tiresome after the first 3 in a row. So I know anime is something that people love. Jason's kids love it, but I just don't connect with it whatsoever. And I think this is a fun little experiment for Star Wars to be doing this. But these non-canon stories are so disposable and just so, as our caller said, not Star Wars. This stuff is more about the anime than it is the Star Wars. I saw some conversation on the official Rebel Force Radio Facebook group, and somebody was lamenting the fact that we didn't bring in an anime fan / expert to help us decipher the meanings of these particular shorts. And I said, well, that just proves our point, that this is more about the anime than it is about the Star Wars. So why are we even wasting our time with this stuff?
Yeah, I saw the same comment. I had to reply back to him, and I mean, I get what they're saying, but this is about how we're analyzing this as Star Wars fans, not as anime fans.
Exactly.
Because,
I wouldn't be watching it.
There's other outlets for that. If you want to hear what bona fide anime fans think about Star Wars, fill your boots. But this is about what we thought about those particular stories. Jim, he's the one that watched them. So I don't really have, if over the holidays my daughter says, "Hey, wasn't there a Star Wars anime you wanted to watch with me?" I might go, yeah, let's watch it. But
yeah, you should. I would like to have a different perspective presented here on the show, quite honestly, because I'm coming off as kind of closed-minded, but I'm really anything but. I sit there, I punch up each one of these, going, "Oh, I can't wait, and then the credits.
No, you're
roll,
anything but closed-minded, Jim. I mean, I've never known anybody. Well, Kyle's a bit like you in that way. Even though you have strong opinions, you're always willing to try things. Always. I don't like Kyle is so, and you, but so down on Star Wars, the expanded universe and the novels, and it's like he's just hating on this stuff, and I'm like, well, are you reading? Oh yeah, I read it. Yeah, I'm reading it right. I'm listening to it right now as I'm driving.
Yeah, right.
He'll get so rage filled he'll have to call one of us, to talk about how much he's hating it. But I got to give him the credit. He's not just criticizing it. You're not criticizing it from afar. You put your time where your mouth is, and you sat down, you watched it, you said, okay, what do you got to show me? And it came up short. And, but for us to view this from the lens of anything other than Star Wars fans is silly. Don't expect that.
Right. And that's not what the people listening to this show expect either.
Yeah.
This is a Star Wars podcast. Dyed in the wool. Star Wars podcast. No, I don't want to say anything because I don't want to call this person out, Okay. And if I say what I'm going to say, it's just such a specific reference. It'll be tied back to this guy, and I don't want that to happen. That'll be something I'll tell you at cocktail hour.
All right.
At some point.
Sounds good. All right. Well, let's check in with Jeremy. Jeremy from Austin, Texas, with a couple of questions.
Hey y'all, Jeremy from Austin, Texas here. Happy Thanksgiving. I have two questions for you guys. The first one is, I want to go back in time on the DeLorean. Jimmy Mack, you saw the original Star Wars 500 times in the theater, and at what point between then and when you saw Empire Strikes Back did you realize that the sequel was actually going to be called Episode 5? And then you realized that meant that Star Wars was actually Episode 4, and what the ramifications of that was. Did you find out when you sat in the theater for the first time? Was it when you read the book and it spoiled the surprise for you about Luke and Vader? Was it in a magazine or a newspaper article? When did you find out, and what was the thought process, and did it blow your mind? And then the second question I have is about this Starfighter movie versus Patty Jenkins' Rogue Squadron. To me, they seem really similar. They're both completely new characters, set in kind of the future of the timeline. They're both about starfighters and pilots, and I'm wondering, are these kind of the same DNA, and they kind of folded some of their ideas from Rogue Squadron into the Starfighter movie, or are they completely different and it's just a coincidence? And, would Lucasfilm actually make two movies that are kind of similar? I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on that, and I'll talk to you later.
All right. Well, Jim, let's go with the first one. Where were you when you first realized, and how did you first come to realize that Star Wars A New Hope was indeed that, Episode 4, A New Hope? Was it when you saw Empire Strikes Back as Episode 5, or was it on a re-release before Empire came out?
No. It was definitely the very first opening day of Empire Strikes Back. I think it was May 20th, 1980. And we were in the theaters, and it rolled up Episode 5. And there's a lot of heads being scratched. But I think the more savvy of us fans back then understood what it meant was that there was a first trilogy, and that George Lucas had kind of teased it in some interviews along the way. Oh, yeah. Most notably with Rolling Stone magazine in 1977, well after the summer had come to an end. And Star Wars was a bona fide hit at that point. So George started talking big about things like prequels and stuff, but he never said prequels. He just made it very clear that there is a story that happened involving Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Vader in the early days of the story. And he's picking it up in the middle. So it was that day. There's a lot of people who argue about this fact online. They say, oh, no, that didn't happen until after Empire Strikes Back came out on home video. Or they'll say things like, no, the 1977 film was re-released in 1979 and it said episode 4. So we knew that it was... No. None of that ever happened.
Oh,
Nobody
see, I actually thought that. I thought that it was christened episode 4 on the re-release.
It was on a re-release following the release of Empire Strikes Back, 1981.
81.
There were some Star Wars Empire double features going down, and Star Wars was back in the theaters.
So that might have been the first example of George going back and making a change to the film. He had to change that opening crawl.
You know, after it was released, George was still like tweaking sound mixes and things like that. But actual visual stuff like the crawl, which was shot physically back then too.
Right. Yeah, on
they
plates
didn't
glass.
type it into an internet program and they got their crawl. It was they actually had to shoot the letters physically on a scrolling platform with the camera moving backwards. Which is just crazy to think about when you watch the film, because that does look like a computer graphic of some sort. But the only computer graphics you see in the original Star Wars is when they're deciphering R2's Death Star plans. And they show that image of the Death Star, and it's all kind of a vector graphic sort of thing when General Dodonna is giving his war room speech and they're strategizing their attack. That's all computer graphics, and it was created here in Chicago at the University of Illinois in Chicago by some computer wizard.
So it really was the original release of The Empire Strikes Back in 1980, May 1980, and you saw episode 5.
Yes.
Now, but as you were saying, you referenced the George Lucas interview in Rolling Stone. I have this book, so for guys like
That's a great one.
Jeremy, and we hear from younger fans all the time wanting to know, and they love the stories about you were there when it first came out and this and that. There's few books that are as great as this George Lucas interviews book that compiles just about every major press interview that George did, print interview from his very first film, THX 1138, all the way through the special editions and early talk of the prequels. So check this out. This really tells you, and you can see George sort of creating and recreating history throughout these interviews as his narrative unfolds. But it is really great, and you can find this on eBay cheap.
Amazon.
Amazon.
It's on Amazon.
Might even be on Kindle by now. I don't know, but anyway,
it's just
great
called
book.
George Lucas Interviews by Sally Klein. She's the editor.
Yes.
And she's the one who compiled all of these interviews and did so in such a great book. And it includes everything going all the way back to THX 1138 through American Graffiti and then Star Wars, even some interviews leading up to Episode 1, The Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
But it is largely an original trilogy verbal recollection via interviews with George Lucas. Back when George was actually giving interviews and talking. This is a compilation of those. And it's really worth checking out. Jason, you sent me one as a gift. I had it. I received it on a Thursday and closed the book on the final page that Sunday. It was such a quality read that just hearing you plug it again makes me want to do another dive into it. It's always good to get into the mind of George Lucas, especially in the eras in which he's operating in, because a lot of times his recollection after years have gone by, he has some very creative edits to history that he makes, and we all know about this. I still don't discount any George Lucas interview that I hear, but sometimes he says things that I know I have to take with a certain grain of salt, a certain amount of salt, actually.
Yes.
And because I can tell when he's BSing. And people do that.
What was Jeremy's second question? I wrote the first one down, and I said, oh, I'll remember the second one, and it went out of my head.
Oh, well, Jeremy obviously had two questions. And the first question, see, this is what I used to do in school, I would just
I hear
keep
what you're doing.
It's kind of like got a little filibuster going on here. So what you see is that Jeremy called us up and left us a voicemail. And he seemed like a very friendly guy.
Is this when the nuns would lose patience with you and smack you with the ruler?
Kick me in the shin. Whatever those crazy ladies felt like they were entitled to do to me as a young man. But yeah, Jeremy called us at 708-320-1737. And he could have also left us a voice memo at show@rebelforceradio.com.
But he didn't.
He clearly had two questions. And the first question was, when do I remember seeing episode 5? It was definitely opening day 1980.
Yeah. Right.
Discard anything you've read on Reddit. And that's just a general rule of thumb for life. Discard anything you read on Reddit because it's 99% wrong. And that's when it happened. And then in 1981, episode 4 was christened A New Hope. We never saw that before. But Jeremy from Austin, Texas, definitely had a second question.
Yeah.
And that second question should be easy for us to answer because it's really straightforward. And the way Jeremy phrased it was very, very interesting. Why don't we just replay that part of the voicemail?
Let's do it.
And then the second question I have is about this Starfighter movie versus
Starfighter,
Patty Jenkins'
yes,
Rogue Squadron.
Patty Jenkins.
To me, they seem really similar. They're both completely new characters set in kind of the future of the timeline. They're both about starfighters and pilots. And I'm wondering, are these kind of the same DNA and they kind of folded some of their ideas from Rogue Squadron into the Starfighter movie? Or are they completely different and it's just a coincidence? And, would Lucasfilm actually make two movies that are kind of similar? I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on that. And I'll talk to you later.
Was it a coincidence? Patty Jenkins and the Starfighter movie coming together. I don't know. I don't think it was necessary. No, it was not by design. I think that it was coincidence in the same way that Lucasfilm might have had a hand in setting Dave Filoni off on creating a story about a Mandalorian and Jon Favreau off creating a story about a Mandalorian, and then all of a sudden, hey, why don't you guys work together on this story about a Mandalorian? I think Patty Jenkins, I buy the whole story about, this was her idea. She came up with it. She was very inspired by her grandfather's story of, I think it was her grandfather. Was it her grandfather or father? It was in World War II. I think it was her grandfather.
Yeah, it'd have to be.
It was in World War II, right.
Yeah,
it would have to be. And then this Sean Levy thing came about after. I really think that Sean Levy had this idea. He got Ryan Gosling involved, and it was just a matter of who got to the blackboard first. So I don't think that they stole any ideas from the Patty Jenkins. I think it's a Sean Levy story, and the Patty Jenkins thing. The latest I've heard on that, Jim, is that could potentially get turned into a streaming series. That might
That's
be
right.
a series and not a film. So could this be an impetus? This Starfighter film be an impetus to see the Patty Jenkins film or the project to fruition, and then maybe it ends up being a series, possibly. But I don't think there was any. I don't think there was any stealing of ideas or concepts or any of that. I think they were two completely different projects that happened to involve pilots.
Right. I mean, really, what do we know about Starfighter other than its name?
Yeah, right.
I am assuming we will see some great space battles and dogfights, which I think the franchise has seriously been lacking over the last dozen years. Let's get back into those great dogfights, the ones that really have a lot of choreography to them, and they tell a story. They're part of the narrative, much like the Battle of Yavin or the Battle of Hoth. Those are all-time great battles in Star Wars, or the dogfight leaving the Death Star. This is just a great action sequence. So Patty Jenkins is developing this Rogue Squadron idea, and earlier this year she did say that she still owes Lucasfilm a script for Rogue Squadron. Could that script be something of maybe a showrunner Bible that will be turned into a streaming series? Maybe, but I do not have any sense, or can I assume that there's any connection between Rogue Squadron from Patty Jenkins and Star Wars Starfighter from Sean Levy. I think they are two very distinct stories, very distinct concepts, and I certainly would love to see Rogue Squadron make the jump to a streaming series. I see a lot of potential in something like that because it's not being boxed in by the mythology. And it's something that you can roll out adventures of the week for an indeterminate amount of time. I mean, you could just keep hitting that well. And, you know, when your core actors become, their heads get too big and their salary demands become too much, bring in a new squadron, you know,
Well,
and
it's
then
just
you
like
have
Saved by the Bell, the new class. I mean, you get a new group.
Right.
But I do think that there's potential if these stories or these concepts take place in a similar timeline, which we assume that it does, comparable, that you could use, should Starfighter be a rousing success, you could use that as a reason to then bring life to the Patty Jenkins project as a series, maybe even plant a couple of seeds in Starfighter. Sure. And if that happens, that doesn't necessarily mean that these two projects were poaching or stealing from each other. It's just
part of a franchise.
Exactly right.
Franchise gonna do what a franchise gonna do. Okay,
right,
and
right.
planting seeds in one story that sprout in another story is something that franchise gonna do. So, and I love it when it works out effectively and gets executed perfectly, and we get to see the progression of storytelling elements spill from one story into another. But the Sean Levy thing also has been saddled with the burden of potentially setting up a whole new Rey Skywalker sequel trilogy. And so, I mean, that's a lot resting on his shoulders. Meanwhile, Sean Levy, he goes out to see the press, and he's like, oh, well, you know, this is a standalone. It's a one and done. I'm in, I'm out. You won't even know I was here. you know, that kind of thing. And I don't know.
Do you think Lucasfilm wants to use this project as a bit of a Trojan horse to sort of take some of these other future ideas and concepts and, you know, present them to fans in a way that fans might not have accepted them by themselves, right?
That idea has potential, doesn't it? I mean,
sure.
You know, Mandalorian and Grogu might also be used in a similar fashion.
Yeah.
The Ahsoka series might also be laying groundwork.
Oh, I feel like Ahsoka was a Trojan horse in a lot of ways.
Well, you know.
Rebels Season 5, folks.
Exactly. But the only reason I bring that series into it is because we're talking about the same part of the timeline. These guys... Mm-hmm. These shows from Starfighter to Rogue Squadron to the Ahsoka series, I should take that back. The Ahsoka series happens more in the Mandalorian time frame, whereas Starfighter is post Rise of Skywalker and the Rogue Squadron idea. We were told 5 years ago that it is after Rise of Skywalker. So there's two distinct eras at work here with The Mandalorian and Grogu and Ahsoka set 5, 6, 7 years after Return of the Jedi, then jumping 30 years to post Rise of Skywalker with Starfighter and Rogue Squadron.
Identity crisis.
No. But you know what I mean? I think the thing that would really help Star Wars is just to lock into one area on the chronology and really focus hard on that and provide a lot of consistency with that.
It's exactly what George
you'll be able
did.
you'll be able to rebuild the fan base, which has been eroding the last several years.
It has.
And
I think we
it's
just
still
need
as
time.
powerful a franchise as it is. It has been eroding. I just wanted to throw that in there.
No, absolutely. And I just think we need some time to be able to get to know characters, establish a relationship. You know, George knew that, of course, this is, 1970s, 1980s math, into the 90s, that a trilogy was going to take a decade of his life. And so not just a decade of George's life, a decade of our lives. I mean, we would spend a decade thinking about these characters, whether it be from the original trilogy to the prequel trilogy. And now another term I think you've used many times is this whiplash, where it's even hard for people that may not be, look, it's even hard for us sometimes as we're talking about this stuff every week, let alone somebody who's just going to the 9 to 5 and, kicking back and seeing, new Star Wars on the Disney Plus. And it's just feeling like, wait a minute, what's happened? Is Darth Vader here? Or should he be shot? So yeah, it is challenging. I wish they would just let us breathe in one particular era timeline for a while and just look around and get to know what's the characters and the situations that are at play.
Yeah, that will save Star Wars. That really will. But they feel, I think, corporate-wise, within the hallways of Lucasfilm and Disney, they look at the sequel trilogy as a failure. And so they're really just throwing anything up against the wall to see what might stick. And I think The Mandalorian stuck. And I think that's the era they should really be focusing in on, because you still have then access to original trilogy characters while they're still in their prime. And you can incorporate all of that stuff or not, or just branch off and have all of those legacy characters and situations really breathe a lot of oxygen into the entire story itself without having to rely on all of those old elements. So it's one of those cases where as Star Wars fans, we want to have our cake and eat it too. We want the fresh, we want the new, we want the revolutionary, we want the cutting edge. But at the same time, we don't consider it Star Wars unless it has these certain established elements within it.
Yes.
And I think identification of what those elements are, and no, it's not Han Solo's dice. No, it's not Life Day. No, it's not blue milk. Grow up. It's not Darth Vader with red eyes. All the weird stuff you story group people just barf out onto all of these different Star Wars bits of medium is flawed and wrong, and you need to get it together. But me and Swank should be in there actually running the story group, but we couldn't handle the corporate politics that
we'd be out after the first meeting.
Yeah, those corporate politics that make you guys what you are. It's, we're stuck between a rock and a hard place. So we have to find the diamonds in the rough. We must find the diamonds in the rough. We are Team Star Wars here at Rebel Force Radio. We are homers when it comes to Star Wars. Always rooting for Star Wars. No, I didn't mean Simpson.
Oh, okay.
It's a sports term that you probably aren't familiar with. They say when an announcer is, too much rah-rah for the home team, he's a homer. A homer. He's not broadcasting the game from an unbiased perspective. He's being too much of a.
Oh, we're Team Star Wars all the way. We're
we're total
definitely
homers.
This is not fair and balanced.
This is unbalanced. This is about as unbalanced as it gets.
Hey, it's Mark Hamill, that Skywalker guy from those space movies.
Rebel Force Radio.
Force yourself to listen.
If this is the kind of Star Wars dialogue and conversation that you love, and why wouldn't you, there is a place where you can get even more of it. You heard us talking about it a little bit earlier, and I'm talking about Rebel Force Radio over on Patreon. You're just scratching the surface here on RFR.
For those who need more RFR in your lives, Lord knows we give you so much more at Rebel Force Radio on Patreon. I've had a lot of people tell me that, I support a few different podcasts or YouTubers on Patreon, but nobody delivers the type of quality content and entertainment that you guys do on a consistent basis for such an affordable price. Guys, we see everything going on at the grocery stores. Everything's going up in price from cars to I know Jason's in the market for $5,000 iPads, so I know this doesn't apply to him. But for everyone else, we're struggling out here, Jason. Now. Guys, that's largely a joke, but I am saying, we all have bills to pay.
Yeah, we do.
And the last thing I want to do with Rebel Force Radio is stick it to you. I make it really, we make it really super affordable. Only $2 and you're in. You're listening. You're an RFR insider, and you're getting access to RFR Q&A, an exclusive Patreon podcast.
And by the way, the only reason that it's $2 is because Patreon basically forced Mac to raise the price from $1 to $2.
Right. We used to have a saying. We'd say, only $1 and you're listening. And I really enjoyed that slogan. Now it's only $2 and you're listening. It kind of
it doesn't have the same ring,
It doesn't have the punch. But yeah, like for 2 years, Patreon was like, we see you're still charging only $1 a month for your lowest tier. We don't like that. That's all right. Well, I want to be in good standing with Patreon because I think it's really, really an awesome service and a great way for us to connect with the most awesome Star Wars fans you'll find anywhere on the internet. And they can all be found at patreon.com/Rebel Force Radio. This week we had RFR Q&A celebrating Life Day with Scott St. Louis, who is the biggest Life Day fan you'll find. He's Mr. Life Day, some might say. And, of course, we were celebrating the 47th anniversary of the original and only network broadcast of the Star Wars Holiday Special. So as Life Day 2025 rolled on, we were celebrating with Scott St. Louis. I got to say, it was the most fun I've ever had acknowledging Life Day. In my, ever, the best way for me to have a good time is via podcast. And man, me and Scott St. Louis had a good old time. And he invented a game called What the Hell Is That? It's with photos and wackiness. And so it was just a lot of fun. And that can only be heard on RFR on Patreon. RFR Q&A number 272, It's Life Day, a Patreon exclusive. Plus, we have RFR Q&A, the Babu Freaks, full show video, ad-free early bird releases, and so much more happening at Rebel Force Radio on Patreon. Patreon.com/Rebel Force Radio is the place you want to go to support Rebel Force Radio and promote the health of this show for a long time to come. Here we are in our 20th year of Star Wars podcasting on Rebel Force Radio. 2026 will be our 20th anniversary. Insane to think about. I used to count the months. I'd be like, ooh, okay, we've been doing this for 7 months, and I haven't snapped yet. Things are going good. Things are going good, yeah.
To measure it by the month, now we measure it by the years. Now we're measuring it by the decades.
Yikes!
Wow.
And hopefully many more decades. Well, at least, I'd be happy with one more decade to come. But, knowing me, we'll squeeze 2 more decades out of this.
I wouldn't doubt it.
This circus here we got called Rebel Force Radio. And we want you to be on board with it. And we want you to get all of it. And the only place you can get all of it is patreon.com/Rebel Force Radio. You can join for free, actually, just to sort of dip your toe in the water and see what we have going on over there. And then, of course, the higher the tier, the more the support you give us, the more stuff you get. And as far as video and podcast and things like that. So, Rebel Force Radio on Patreon is patreon.com/Rebel Force Radio, patreon.com/Rebel Force Radio. One more time in Liam Neeson voice.
Oh, yeah, sure, patreon.com/Rebel Force Radio. Swank, you little bastard.
All right, let's get back to our voicemails. Let's check in with Mariana.
Hey, Jimmy. Hi, Jason. This is Mariana, longtime supporter and caller. Like I said, I want to say thank you guys for keeping it real when it comes to talking the wars. And thank you for, again, serving as the inspiration for my podcast, like I mentioned when I called in a few weeks ago. So there's kind of something I wanted to ask you guys about because you have been in the podcasting business for a while. And also you guys have been doing the convention routes. Let me tell you, there's been a lot of fans that are very passionate. Some of them include like massive fans of Hayden Christensen. I don't know if you guys were aware of this, but Hayden is so loved by a lot of people. But at the same time, some of his fans and his fan base can be a little out there. And what I found out is that about last year, I think somebody tried to like stalk him, and it got up to the point where someone actually ended up finding his daughter's school. So
look, I've apologized for this.
Also, a lot of incidents happening. I know that Jason's a big Broadway fan, and they.
Oh, it was you.
It was me.
There's been a lot of stage door incidents happening. I think you guys talked about that one time when Ewan McGregor supposedly ignored a fan at a stage door on the West End. But because there's been a lot of incidents happening with fans being super entitled, saying that they demand an autograph. And some of those incidents have been happening at the conventions too, where some of the fans have been a little too handsy. So my question to you guys is,
again, I've apologized for this repeatedly.
What do you guys do, and what can be done more to really implicate and promote a safe and respectful boundaries within the Star Wars community? Like when it comes to like interacting with fans or with other Star Wars celebrities, I'm just really curious, how have you guys been doing that? And also especially like in the RFR community. So I was just wondering about when it comes to like interacting with the Star Wars celebrities. So yeah, thanks a lot, Jimmy and Jason, and keep up the great work. May the Force be with you. Chut, chut.
So here's the problem with this sort of thing, is that you don't hear about the 99.9999999% of fans that do behave like normal human beings and don't cause any problems at these shows. Jim, Mariana points out, and we were just saying, how we've been doing this for 20-some years. I think you've been to every Star Wars celebration stateside since Celebration 2. I've been to all of them since Celebration 3. I don't recall these being issues or problems before. Now, it may be because, again, we're talking about many, many years. News didn't travel quite the way. It wasn't as sensational. Social media, all of that, plus this narrative about Star Wars fans being toxic, blah, 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 blah. I think there's just this dialogue or this story that is just always waiting for evidence of it being true. And so, some nut goes too far at a convention and it becomes news, and it's, this is part of a pattern. I'm happy to say that I've not noticed this pattern. I've not been privy to it. Everyone that I've come in contact with, whether they be Star Wars celebrities or they just be other fans like us, have always been really, really kind, really, really supportive, nice. And Jim, let's be honest. Let's pull back the curtain a little bit and say that, we have been to conventions in good times and bad in terms of Star Wars fandom. Let's put it that way. And even when there were times when we were maybe concerned about how we might be treated, how we might be looked upon at a Star Wars convention, never have we had a problem? Because I think for the most part, Star Wars fans are just like most people, by and large. They're good people. They just want to have fun with their families, their friends, their loved ones, and not cause problems. But yeah, you're going to occasionally have the random screw job. But that's going to be the case no matter whether you're at a Star Wars convention or you're at the post office or the BMV or somewhere else or at the grocery store. That stuff's going to happen. But I don't think there's anything unique to fandom, conventions, or much less Star Wars fans that is the common denominator.
There's been a few things that have happened culturally over the course of the last decade, especially in convention culture, which I think may have made some fans become a little too comfortable around celebrities. And that is, the rise of social media. Oh, he liked my tweet. I know him. I am going to connect with him at the convention in Des Moines, and we are going to become best friends because he liked my tweet. It's this type of illusion, this sort of romanticism that social media sort of applies to the way that people have a different kind of level of accessibility to celebrities. Then the other thing is, solely within convention culture, is the rise of the paid photo op, where you wait in line for 5 hours to take a photo with a guy who is at best a C-list celebrity in some like show that's in syndication, or somebody who's like a true superstar, like a Ewan McGregor. And you wait in line for hours and hours, and you finally get to go in there and meet your hero. And I guess some people kind of lose their mind a little bit in that situation. It could be very awkward.
Well, let's not look over the fact that sometimes you're paying $300 for the privilege. And so what you think, well, I'm paying $300 for this, I better get a memory out of it. Here's a little pinch. Or, a little grab. I don't know. I don't know what goes through the minds of these people. I'm just trying to make assumptions.
Maybe I could put a certain perspective on it that you'll understand. I'll speak in terminology Jason Swank will understand 1,000%. And not only will I do that, I will quote our late, great princess herself, Carrie Fisher. And Carrie always referred to these meet and greets with fans, photo ops, whatever, as celebrity lap dances. So that just to put it in terminology that you fully understand, Jason.
I gotcha. Okay. Yes,
lap
of course you know I'm a big.
And as you know,
I'm a big frequenter of the the men's clubs. I often take my lunch breaks.
I had to bring it down to your level. Okay, via the words of the late great Carrie Fisher.
Yes,
Princess frickin' Leia. She says those are celebrity. That's how she looked at it. She's getting paid to engage with you as a human being.
Yeah.
And in some places where lap dances occur, some dudes take that engagement and they take it to the next level when it should be maybe at a much lower level.
Right.
And I think there's an element of that exists with the way fans act at conventions. And as Mariana says in her voicemail, she must have witnessed something that I've never seen at a convention. People getting handsy.
Yeah.
Handsy.
Normally,
now, of course,
it's
she's
the
asking
celebrities
us for
doing that. What?
So some celebrities, sure. Why not? It works both ways.
Right.
But, of course, Mariana is coming to us for some sort of guidance or advice. We're the ones that Billy D. Williams told to cool down. He went, cool it! And that's the only photo op we ever did with the celebrity.
And that was
we got yelled at.
That was because Billy D. stepped in between two brothers that have been fighting each other for
the whole weekend.
Right,
yeah,
right.
Two brothers and a puppet. And
yeah.
And didn't Billy D. Why didn't he just turn around and look at the puppet and say something like, Was that supposed to be me?
He didn't even notice the puppet, which is the most incredible part of it. He didn't even notice it. All he noticed was that you and Billy were fighting because Mac was coaching Billy Mac the whole time we were in line about where he wanted the puppet to be in relation to Billy D and how we were going to all and of course, wouldn't you know it, we go in there and it doesn't go down that way. And of course, you're giving stage notes. You're trying to choreograph this whole event. You've had it in your head for months. You've paid money.
No, there was another moment at Rancho Obi-Wan just a few months ago with Billy Mack and Puppet Lando. It drove me crazy. I'll tell you after the show.
Oh, yeah, you're going to have to tell you. I wasn't aware of this one.
Yeah, you're not, but I'll tell you after the show. Just drove me nuts. I called him out on it, too, but I waited for like 3 weeks after RFR.
Here's a pattern. Here's a pattern I've noticed with our good friend Mariana is that she's very concerned about what other people are doing and the behavior of other people. And I appreciate that. I know Mariana's got a great heart and she's very empathetic and she wants fandom to be something that she can be proud to belong to. Yeah. And I think, Mariana, the best advice I have for you is 99.9999% of fandom is good. It's positive. Focus on that. When you see the screwballs acting a fool or whatever, just chalk it up to just being part of the minority. And, I'm glad I don't have to go home with them at the end of the day.
Right.
I'm glad they're not my friends.
Right. Get a little elitist, and be like, oh, that's not how I act, Use it as a way to boost your own confidence. Right. And say, look at those fools. They don't know what they're doing here. They obviously are in way over their skis. Act like you belong here, is what I often say to people. Act like you belong here. This isn't a zoo. These celebrities aren't exhibits in a cage. Or a petting zoo, even worse, with the handsy people,
Right.
So just act like you belong there. And you know what? There's always going to be riffraff and ne'er-do-wells in any situation you're in, especially when there's a level of celebrity present. And so that's just the best advice I have for anyone. Just act like you belong there. And if you see people acting like damn fools, say, at least I'm not them.
Right.
Just roll your eyes and move along. And you know what? Chastise them a little bit, too, publicly. Shame them. And then
I'm
maybe
all for
they'll
a good
think
shaming.
Twice.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll think twice about what they're doing. Just a little,
Boo.
You don't
maybe
have to,
boo them.
Boo! Yeah. But keep it within the realms of acceptability, I mean, 4-letter, 5-letter, 12-letter words that you might come up with. Let's just, just be like, shame them. Just shame. Just say that.
I'm all for bringing back shame.
Do that with your fingers. Shame, shame, shame. Like they do on Game of Thrones. Shame, shame. And then somebody hit a cowbell while they're doing it, too. I think that's part of the whole Game of Thrones.
And just once again, let there be no mistake, I apologize for grabbing a cheek on Hayden
Can't take
Christensen.
this guy anywhere.
Can't. All right, here's Chuck from Oregon.
Chuck from Oregon here. I would love if you guys did like a deep dive on the old first-person shooters. I've heard you guys talk about Dark Forces, all that, the Star Wars Jedi Knight games and stuff where, it's 90s, early 2000s first-person shooters. I know Jimmy Mack loves them. I don't know, not too sure how much of those that old Jason Swank has touched, but that would be a fun deep dive because the stuff you guys have talked about, this was the stuff that was coming out when I was even too young to go to school, but I was alive. But it's fun learning about it now, and it'd be cool to hear the deep dive, the boots on the ground of when these games were coming out, how you guys felt 30 years ago. Just a suggestion. It would be cool to hear your guys' perspective about Dark Forces and all this stuff that happened in basically the dark times and special edition times. So, anyways, bye-bye.
Well, I have a quick story that I can tell you about that. So it was summer of 1996.
Yeah.
I was about to go to college, And I was insistent that I was not going to have to wait in line in some computer lab, that I was going to have my own PC that I was going to take with me to college. And I just bugged my poor mother all summer long. I need a computer to go to college.
To put it in perspective, boots on the ground perspective, we have to let people know that home PCs were far from being as common as your kitchen stove back then. Very few households in 1996 had their own PC, and a lot of businesses as well. It was just catching on. It really wasn't until you could say the late 90s when it was like, oh, what, you don't have a home computer? What's the matter with you? But before that, it was something that people were adapting to. Yeah. And Jason Swank, if I know Jason Swank, to hear him say 1996, I think, geez, Swank was a couple years behind me on the PC front. That's insane. But I'm also a few years ahead of you on the birth certificate front. So.
But yeah, I was going into college and I'd heard these nightmare stories about having to wait at these in these computer labs, and I was like, I just felt so strongly that I needed a computer. Also, I had been spending some time with a buddy of mine who had a computer in his home and was going on various chat rooms and talking about things like toy collecting and Star Wars and all of that. So that was also playing in the back of my mind. So for my birthday, August 1996, I got a Packard Bell, a Packard Bell PC, a desktop PC with monitor, etc. And with it, I got Dark Forces 2. I had no idea, had no clue what was happening in computer gaming at all. I was a console guy, and by console, I mean the original NES, left to right scrollers. That was my, a little bit with the Super NES and the Super Star Wars and Empire and Jedi, but I had no idea about these games. And man, oh man, that was a fun time. I loved Dark Forces 2, Kyle Katarn. It was awesome. And I only got it because it came bundled with this Hewlett-Packard PC that I got to take with me to college. And there was a couple of weeks in between my birthday and going off to University of Cincinnati, where I started going, where I just played the hell out of that game. So a lot of fun.
Wow, those are some great memories, man. I was out of college by that point, and home PCs were just starting to catch on. And I would have really been late in the game as far as getting my own home computer. But by that point in time, I had shacked up with Wendy Snyder, which was the best thing I ever did. Because Wendy, if she wanted it, she got it. And computers were immediately something she was interested in. And
now, were you working on them in the office, part of the radio stations? You weren't working on PCs in the mid-90s?
No.
Okay, all right.
No. Gosh, I had to. It wasn't until I ended up at CBS Radio back in the late 90s that I actually threw down and demanded computers in the production studios.
Wow.
Because downloadable music was becoming a thing via Napster.
Right.
And I wanted to access the MP3s. I wanted to know about the MP3s. So I freaked out, and I had, I made a big fuss about that. And I think I was solely responsible for upgrading all those studios to make them digital. But still, back then, it was just to get accessibility to the internet. So I could record things or, figure out what these MP3s were all about. But the idea of actually doing nonlinear digital editing was not a thing that I would do with a PC. There were specific, machines built at that point in time that would provide you the editing, the nonlinear digital editing experience. And there was the first digital editor I ever used. It was a standalone platform. By standalone, I mean it was its own machine.
Yes.
With computer software built into it to help you edit audio. It was called a Korg SoundLink. And it was an extremely complicated machine to use. But I think I got that thing smoking after a bit of time. And then I moved into smaller devices like 360s. What was the company that made those? I can't remember. I had my own for a period of time. But that's how I got into digital stuff. And then it all ended up online.
Is that where the jocks would record the calls during the commercial breaks and then play them back?
Yeah, they would use the 360.
Yes.
It was called the 360 Crossroads. I can't remember the name of it. But, man, I knew that machine inside.
There was like a little
out.
wheel on it, I remember, that they would use.
The scrub wheel.
The scrub wheel,
my God, do I... The amount of hours I spent just hovering over that machine. And I started collecting Star Wars sound effects by the time I was using the 360. And it was just so much fun to use that. And now everything's on the screens. It's PC. Adobe Audition is that's like radio industry standard. Of course, you have Pro Tools and things like that when you get into recording studios. So digital editing is insanity. But in the 90s, when I got my first home computer, the thing I wanted to do the most was Star Wars stuff. That's all I wanted to do.
Of course.
I went to the AOL chat rooms talking Star Wars. How do I score these action figures? The first time I ever got like a collector's tip that an action figure was in stock at a particular Toys R Us was the Slave Leia action figure, which was driving everyone insane. And there were reports that there were cases of them that showed up at the Riverside Toys R Us. So I went over there and scored. Was
it true? Did you score? Okay, good.
Well, I went into the back room and told the kid who worked there, I said, you better get me one. You better get me one right now. Because I saw other people with them, but none were on the pegs.
Mm-hmm.
And then I saw some other guy. He had like 3 Slave Leias and like 20 Hot Wheels all wrapped up in his arms.
Oh, the Hot Wheels guys. Oh, the worst. When you're lining up, waiting for that Toys R Us to open, and you're in line with the Hot Wheels guys.
So he's in the room, like he's half in the back room talking to somebody. And I see him there holding it, and I walk over there. I go, what's up with that? He's got 3 of them. And I look at the kid like, he's got 3 of them, and I have none. What are we going to do about this?
Do the math, kid.
Well, I gave the kid a look, and he immediately gave me an action figure. I skipped my way out of the store, happy as a pig and you know what. But Star Wars Dark Forces, I originally became aware of PC games for the CD-ROM.
Yes.
And I would see this stuff in like the computer section of big box store like Walmart or Target or whatever. And I would look at the boxes going, wow, I don't know what to do with this thing. It was always the X-Wing or TIE Fighter simulator thing.
Yeah.
I would always see that and go, wow, man, this is kind of cool. Star Wars stuff wasn't really readily available in 1995, 1996 when Dark Forces came out. So when you saw anything Star Wars on the shelves, you stopped and looked. Because this was odd. This is Star Wars. What's this doing here? How could this? It's new. How could this be here? Dark Forces. You got to be kidding me.
New Star Wars anything used to just jump off of the racks or the pegs or whatever into your face because it was so rare at that time.
Right. It's just Star Wars was largely dormant. Until the special editions. It really started to pick up, though, in the mid-'90s. Once the Hasbro started making the new action figures, computer games like Dark Forces were coming out, and the expanded universe was gaining steam in novels and comics, and then you had Shadows of the Empire, which was really sort of like a certain moment in time where the entire expanded universe, pre-special edition, prequel era, it really all became solidified. It's like, okay, this is it. This is the Star Wars of the current age. And it was the expanded universe, and it was Shadows of the Empire, and it was Dark Forces. And so once I finally got that computer, it was a Gateway 2000. We purchased it in late 94, early 95. And we sat there, we fired up the AOL live chat. We went into a chat room, and there were words being typed out on our screen by strangers. And me and Wendy kind of like stepped back from the computer screen and sort of held each other like, can they see us? It was like that. It was this cultural thing that, oh my God, this is happening in real time.
Real time.
And someone else is typing on my computer screen, and it ain't me. And, we're just months away from using typewriters, much less computer
Word
screens.
Processors, things
Oh,
like
my
that.
God. There's this possessed, and it's in my house. And so, once that dust settled, I said, I got to get into these Star Wars PC games, and I got Dark Forces and started playing it. And the things that jumped out to me, of course, the sound design. Hearing all of that great Ben Burt sound effects being reappropriated into a video game in such an incredibly profound way. And then even things like the way that I felt I was being enveloped by the Star Wars universe while playing it was just you'd hear the voice of a stormtrooper from off in the distance saying, "You're there, stop," or something like that. Halt!
Yeah,
you're just
so
like, that's
right.
That's so stormtrooper.
It was the closest we had to like new Star Wars anything, like film or TV or whatever, because they were done so well. It left the console stuff in the dust.
Sure
You're so right. This felt like you were watching a new Star Wars movie.
Stop right there. Yeah. And you got a bunch of Ree-Yees shooting at you and stuff. And just to even see a Ree-Yees outside of Jabba's palace was exotic.
Yeah.
It was just what an experience.
Yeah.
Holy smokes. And so I ate that up. And I played it every Saturday morning for 3 hours. And I said, I'm not going to look up cheat codes or tips or anything. I'm going to go through this pure. And I did. And it took me 9 months of Saturdays, 3 hours, because that was the only time I had to play the game. I was starting my career and fully committed to making that a thing. So, like Monday through Friday, I didn't really, my whole life was dedicated to my career. I mean, like from sun up to sundown, but I still would,
It was a lifestyle. It wasn't a job.
It was a lifestyle.
It was a lifestyle.
Yeah. And so I could only allow myself those Saturdays to Saturday mornings. And I would get up early because I was working in morning radio during that time. So even on Saturdays, sleeping in for me would be like getting up at 7 a.m. Yeah. Right to the PC, Fire up the Dark Forces. Maybe, Bloody Mary or 4. And just enjoy myself and embrace the weekend. And Dark Forces was that game, and I did finally defeat it. They have remastered it, and I've yet to play the remastered version.
Yeah?
I could see myself doing that, maybe over the holiday break, just to reacquaint myself with Dark Forces. But I'd never played a game so immersive and so expansive. And then to have it be in the Star Wars universe was 1,000 times better than any video game experience I ever had previous to that point. So,
yeah, it absolutely was magical. What a cool question. I hadn't thought about that stuff in such a long time.
How about it?
Yeah.
How about it?
People are lining up for Star Wars, and everybody is excited, especially the Rebel Force Radio podcast.
Yeah, those podcasts are great. I got to get this podcast.
Your source for the Force.
Got any more?
Let's do it. Let's see. You all know this guy. This is Joe Dallas coming in on our special Thanksgiving episode of RFR.
Hey, Rebel Force Radio listeners, and Jason and Jimmy, this is Joe Dallas. And I just wanted to say happy Thanksgiving to the whole RFR family of listeners. I hope everyone has the best Thanksgiving ever. And thank you, Jason and Jimmy, for bringing all of us together. P.S. If you're hiding from the Empire, good luck. They are everywhere. But if you are the Empire, we're not the droids you're looking for.
Oh, Joe. Joe's the best.
Joe.
What a sweetheart. Joe is such a great guy and super talent. The diversity, people always make so much about diversity these days. And I'm like, look at the RFR audience. Talk about diversity, the different talents, abilities, skills, vocations, jobs, all of that. It's just the mind boggles. You go to an event like we had at Rancho Obi-Wan and you meet all these folks and there's this stereotype, about what fans are and they live in their parents' basement. Yeah. We've got some of the most wonderfully successful, happy, well-adjusted, phenomenally contributing members that you'd want in any society. And I just love it. And Joe's a great example of that.
Yeah, Joe's a world-class musician based out of Key West, Florida, and a regular contributor to RFR Q&A. As a matter of fact, his Q&As are among some of the most favorite among RFR Patreon supporters. Joe always brings a game to play, or he always has a game, and sometimes the game is a top 10 list. It usually is that way. That's usually how he orchestrates this stuff. His games are these top 10 lists, and you have to guess them, and it's all kind of fun stuff. There was a great episode where he had me trying to guess the sounds of the vintage Kenner Star Wars vehicles from back in the 70s, 80s. And he'd play them for me and just be like,
There wasn't a whole lot of variety those early.
I'm sitting there listening to something like Ben Bird is spinning in his grave right now,
Yeah.
Ben Bird's still alive and with us, ladies and gentlemen. Yes. I have to make that disclaimer in case anybody from the immediate Burt family is listening.
Yeah, what did you hear on RFR? Better call Uncle Ben.
Crazier things have happened. Uncle Ben ain't making rice no more. That's what's going on here. Rice or sound effects. So, well, thank you, Joe Dallas. You're a valued member of the RFR community, a great VIP, and really a quality friend. There's some honest-to-goodness friendships that evolve within the Rebel Force Radio community, and especially with those Patreon users. They really have developed some friendships, even a romance here or there. So, all the action's happening at patreon.com/Rebel Force Radio.
All right. Greg from New Jersey is up next.
Hey, Jason and Jimmy, this is Greg from New Jersey. I randomly decided to put on Empire Strikes Back tonight, and a phrase in the opening crawl caught my attention. The second paragraph begins, evading the dreaded Imperial Starfleet, a group of freedom fighters led by Luke Skywalker has established a new secret base on the remote ice world of Hoth. And I was curious about the use of Imperial Starfleet, because I don't remember that phrase being used elsewhere in the original trilogy or in the expanded universe, and I would usually think of Imperial Navy. I think like a lot of us, we associate the word Starfleet with Star Trek. So I know it can be a generic term, but it is capitalized in the crawl like it's a proper title. So I'm just curious if that phrase ever jumped out to you, or if you can think of other places that it's been used. Super thankful for you guys and your show. Best wishes for the holidays. Hope to see everyone again in 2026.
Starfleet. Is Starfleet something that is a Star Wars term? We've all heard it in Star Trek. And it was noticeably there in the crawl for Empire Strikes Back, the Imperial Starfleet.
It was.
Does that ever get used again in Return of the Jedi? Does Darth Vader or somebody say something about the Imperial, or maybe in the Rebel War Room they say something about the Imperial Starfleet massing around Sullust?
It's Vader. It's Vader. He says, "What about the Rebel fleet?
The Rebel fleet
massing around Sullust."
But Imperial Starfleet is. I mean, really, can you think of any examples outside of the crawl for Empire Strikes Back where it's the Imperial Navy is what it is, and they're being referred to as the Imperial Starfleet in the Empire Strikes Back crawl. This is something I've never considered before, but Starfleet is definitely a Star Trek term.
It very much is, and I can't think of another occasion where it's used that way. I mean, Starship is used,
all the time.
in both franchises. Starship.
I've heard Imperial Fleet, Rebel Fleet,
right?
But an Imperial
Starfleet.
Navy, but Imperial Starfleet, any Starfleet.
Yeah.
Starfleet's very Trekky.
Well, those ILM guys were working on Trek films around the same time.
They sure were,
So,
right? Yeah, the motion picture was made in 1970, where Empire Strikes Back was made in 1980. Or the 79 for the Star Trek film, and then 80 for the Empire Strikes Back. I mean, there may have been some crossover there in terms of thought, but I mean, who wrote the crawl?
That was on the tip of my tongue. Who wrote the crawls? Now, I believe I've seen pictures of the yellow legal pads of George Lucas with crawls. I think we've seen the original crawl.
Wow.
I think we've seen maybe the Phantom Menace crawl, maybe scribbled on the pages of a yellow legal pad. I don't recall ever seeing the crawl from the Empire Strikes Back ever scribbled on one of those infamous legal pads. But I guess it's possible. But
was it Kasdan? Was it Lucas?
Who wrote the crawls?
Who wrote the crawl? Yeah, I mean, really, someone had to have final editorial say on what these crawls consist of, and I think that guy is probably George Lucas. I'd have to say.
The buck stopped with George for sure.
I mean, here's the guy holding up maquettes of obscure characters hidden in the shadows and backgrounds of scenes, and he's signing off on each and every one of them. No.
I am seeing...
I think the crawl is 100% George Lucas.
Yeah, what I'm seeing here with just a very, very quick search was that Lucas traditionally kept the crawl text for himself throughout the original trilogy. That those were written by George.
I would imagine. Prequel trilogy, probably the same. But George had more control over the prequel trilogy, each and every individual thing. His fingerprints are all over the prequel trilogy.
Yeah, and I'm seeing that even in the case of Revenge of the Sith, where Jonathan Hales was brought in to work on the screenplay, that even then the crawl text was still strictly under George's control. So the crawls seem pretty sacrosanct to George, and they do sound like George. To be honest with you, when you read them, they don't sound Kasdan. George has a more clinical way of writing, a less warm, touchy-feely way. Yeah. And the crawls are very descriptive and almost clinical in a way. So as far as the sequel trilogy, it's largely considered that the writers themselves, the screenwriters themselves would have written them. So in the case of Rise of Skywalker, Chris Terrio in JJ, probably working together, Rian Johnson, of course, on Last Jedi, and then Force Awakens, Lawrence Kasdan and J.J. Abrams together.
Yeah. So I don't really care who wrote the scroll for the. I'll be honest with you, I don't.
Max, I'm talking about real Star Wars here.
No, I'm not like that. I'm not like that. I just wanted to know what the George Lucas connection was to those crawls.
Yeah,
and I think they're largely him.
Yes.
I think at least he had the editorial say over all of that stuff. So yeah, that's really interesting. Starfleet. So the only other time I could recollect the term Starfleet being used is a solo album by Queen's Brian May, Queen's lead guitar player and occasional singer Brian May. He put out an album, Brian May and Friends, Starfleet Project, in 1983, and it was Brian May and friends, and among those friends was Eddie Van Halen. And they released this little known album called Starfleet. It was kind of something of an EP, I believe. I acquired it when it came out back in the 80s, but it was largely lost to time. I think nowadays, a couple years ago, there was a deluxe edition re-release, and now it's streaming. And so you can hear Starfleet by Brian May, and he got the name from Starfleet because it was the name of this cult science fiction Japanese marionette science fiction series that ran in the UK and in Japan, obviously called Starfleet. When it ran in the original name of it was X-Bomber, and it was a Japanese marionette TV series, science fiction series. But when they released it in England, it was called Starfleet. And so Brian May released this thing, Starfleet Project, and it was inspired by the marionette science fiction program from Japan that I think it was only on for 1 year, 1980. I've never seen a clip of this show. I have no idea what it's all about, but I just know the backstory of the Brian May album because it's a kick-ass album. I mean, or EP, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. I think he just, not too long ago, I think he was doing I think there was like a re-release of that album.
Yeah.
I follow him on various socials. He's a big Star Wars fan, Brian May, of course.
Huge science fiction fan, big-time Star Wars fan.
Collector.
So much so that our buddy out in the UK, James Burns, who runs the Star Wars website Jedi News UK, actually has developed something of a friendship with Brian May over Star Wars. Boy, imagine if you and me were in the UK. Like Brian May would he'd be on all the after shows, you know. We'd be arguing with Brian
breaking
May.
down the latest Mando episode or something with Brian May.
Geez, Brian May, I disagree with your take on.
Of course, we would just call him Brian May. We would
call Brian May all the time,
right.
you know. And he did every show with a song, a guitar instrumental. That'd be great. We'd be best friends, and we'd go out like to the conventions together. And
I just pulled up the crawl, and the line is evading the dreaded Imperial Starfleet. A group of freedom fighters has established a new secret base on the remote ice world of Hoth. I would think if I'm George and someone brings me this copy that says evading the dreaded Imperial Navy, it would strike me as a little too real worldy, a little too earthy, and so Starfleet would work in that context. But man, does it tread on the Trek? There's no doubt about it, and it's a very interesting crossover.
I guess it does. I never was presented red flags upon reading that in the crawl. I never gave it a second thought until this email from Greg, who's he's blowing the lid right off this thing, man. Greg from New Jersey, you know.
But now it's
People
all
have
I
been
can think about when I see. I'm never going to watch Empire the same way.
Yeah, everybody listens to the show is the same way. Greg's blowing the lid right off this thing. He's like, somebody needed to speak up, Yeah, you can't be silent in moments like this. Silence is compliance. So he lets us know Starfleet is a decidedly Trek term being used in Star Wars. But I like your thought wave here where it's like, you say Imperial Navy to George, and he's like, that's boring.
Yeah,
Starfleet.
Right.
Starfleet. I just pulled that out of the air. Run with it. It's like, hey, you did not.
You did not. Hey, we know. We talked to Dan Madsen last week, and George admitted to Dan that he watched the Trek, and he was a Star Trek fan. So,
screw you, Roddenberry. Starfleet. Star Destroyers are Starfleet, not your wussy Enterprise ships and everything.
All right, we have time for a couple more.
Everybody's going to write me, why do you have to rip on Star Trek so much? Why are you Star Wars fans so mean?
Look,
I love it.
I remember. No.
I like beating up on the Trek just because of fanboys.
Yeah,
and
I'm going to tell you guys.
I believe that's a tradition.
First time I ever stayed the night at Jimmy Mac's house. I'll never forget.
He looks up. Yeah, he sees my DVD collections of the
Star Trek: The Next Generation. Oh, I saw him, baby. I saw him. I couldn't believe it. I think back then Pete was staying. I was like, look up there. Did you see the Star Trek Next Generation? Look
at that. Look
Max
at
the Trekkie.
TOS.
Dude, in the original, early in the early days, I would never even think about bringing up Trek to you. I was like, I'm not going to talk to Trek about this. He probably hates Trek. He's stuck. Jimmy Mack used to push Star Trek fans in lockers in high school.
No.
But then I realized
the Dungeons and Dragons guys.
Oh, those guys. I put those guys in lockers.
Yeah, they were easy prey. That's low hanging fruit right there.
Right. But no, it was. Of course, later we talked about it, and I realized you, like a lot of people in those dark days, Star Trek: The Next Generation was a lifeline to, good sci-fi content and storytelling and all of that.
In the second half of the 80s, Star Wars made it very clear to us that we were now in a desert.
Yeah.
And if you want to be entertained, you better go find that entertainment somewhere else. And lo and behold, in 1988, Star Trek: The Next Generation kicked in. It had a huge promotional push. I remember reading about it in the TV guide. And I said to myself, hey, this is something I want to take a peek at on opening night. And I did, and decided to stick with it through 7 seasons and other spin-off shows and all that crap. Meanwhile, I was still going to see the original crew in the theatrical releases.
Right.
All the way from the first one to the last one. So there's always a little bit of room in my heart for Star Trek. But in my Star Wars fan heart, Star Trek is, scum of the earth.
Yeah, right. You cut Jimmy Mack's veins open and Star Wars just bleeds out. There's no Trek.
Man.
There's no Trek.
It's a lot of midi-chlorians. No green blood. No green blood here. No green blood. All midi-chlorians. Yes, indeed.
All right.
I think we have time for one more.
We have a few others, but let's do the next one. This is Marcus from Texas.
Hi, everybody. This is Marcus from Texas, first-time caller. Really love the show. Thanks for all the hard work you guys do. But the recent podcast talking about the hunt for Ben Solo and that failed movie project, it had me going back and thinking about The Last Jedi. And for a lot of the original trilogy fans, we said, that wasn't our Luke Skywalker. And I remember watching it for the first time, and when Luke throws the lightsaber over his shoulder, just thinking, I'm not going to like this. But here's my question then. So with the setup that JJ made in The Force Awakens, were we ever going to get a Luke Skywalker that we would be happy with? Han says that one of Luke's students destroyed it all, and basically Luke went off to basically be in exile. He hid himself, even though he left like a partial map. But were we ever going to be happy with who he was and have a non-grumpy, non-grizzled version? Just curious about your thoughts. Thanks for taking the call. RFR number 1. Appreciate it.
Boy, what a great question. Oh, man, this is not something I've ever been asked. This is something I've definitely thought of in my own head. And Jim, I'm going to start off by saying, yes, I believe that J.J. Abrams was going to give us that heroic Luke Skywalker. I really do. I think the evidence is pretty clear. There was an effect shot that was being worked on that was going to close the Force Awakens that included Luke Skywalker with a bunch of floating rocks around him. This Luke Skywalker was still connected to the Force, and he was going to be the Obi-Wan Kenobi for Rey Skywalker. Rey becomes Rey Skywalker, but Rey. And this was always about Luke taking on the mantle of the teacher, Obi-Wan. It was Rian Johnson that, frankly, just bastardized it and eventually sort of got Luke there, but not really. I think JJ, who was lured into the project by Kathleen Kennedy with the simple question, who is Luke Skywalker? That was what lured and made JJ commit. That question from Kathleen made JJ commit to what he believed was going to be maybe a decade of his life working on a new Star Wars trilogy. And boy, did that change.
Well, I always say that when Kathleen Kennedy asked J.J. Abrams, who is Luke Skywalker, it wasn't a question about what drives the man at his core, what is his true path of morality. It is, can you please explain to me who likes Luke Skywalker is? Because I don't know what I'm doing here. Wait, Luke
you thought
Skywalker,
it was a
please,
sincere question. It was...
Who is Luke Skywalker? I mean, who is Luke Skywalker? Is he anything like Kirk? Captain Kirk? Is he anything like Captain Kirk? Is he anything like that? No. She obviously was posing a question about the essence of the character to J.J. Abrams. Why does that need to become under scrutiny on day one? Who is Luke Skywalker? Well, Luke Skywalker is a guy who tried to follow in his father's footsteps, only to discover that his father is everything he's fighting against, and he stuck to his training, he stuck to his ideals, he stuck to his own sense of morality, and was able to push through the dark side of the Force and bring his father back because he could sense there was an element of good still emanating inside the man, and he was able to bring it out through their family connection. And so that made Luke a hero. The story of the original trilogy has nothing to do with the rise of the Jedi or even the return of the Jedi, despite the fact the film is named that. It's really the return. If you want to be real about it, they should have named episode 6 The Rise of Skywalker. I'll be honest with you.
Yes.
They should have.
Yes.
I mean, it's like that would be a more appropriate name because it is Luke redeeming his father. That's what the story is all about. It's not all about the toppling of an imperial oppressive government and the death of an emperor or the death of the dark side. It's really all about just a dude following the footsteps of his father that he never knew, only to confront him and redeem him. I mean, it's like the greatest story. It's Shakespearean on so many levels without getting too precious about it all. And then to unravel it with The Last Jedi, because it is presented to us in The Force Awakens via Han Solo, who tells Rey that Luke was betrayed by a student, a boy, a guy he was training, and he betrayed Luke and destroyed the Jedi Academy. So Luke left. He split. Okay? Mm-hmm. Nowhere does Han Solo say Luke ran away. Nowhere did Han say, in this recollection of events, nowhere does Han say Luke turned his back on the Force or Luke turned his back on his legacy. He just said Luke disappeared. Nobody knows where he went. So Rian Johnson decided to interpret that as Luke ran away, as Luke turned his back on the Force, as Luke was disgusted, essentially, with the life he had cultivated for 60 years. That's the taste I get in my mouth as somebody who watched The Last Jedi. So what would I have done differently? Why did Luke disappear? Well, some say he went out to search the location of the first Jedi temple. You would assume that Luke was searching out that Jedi temple for a purpose. Rian Johnson gave that search no purpose. Luke went to the Jedi temple, per Rian Johnson, to hide, to die.
Yeah.
To die a failure, to remove himself from the galactic playfield and shrink away and hide, because in the hopes that it will destroy the legacy of the Jedi, that it'll all end with him. Because Luke believes that with the Jedi in existence, that only forges the existence of the dark side. And I would have done it differently. I would have had Luke search out the original Jedi temple to find a source of power, to be able to enhance his own connection to the Force, to give him the strength to return and destroy the First Order and the dark side that fuels it. But instead, Rian Johnson decided to make Luke a coward, to make him run and hide, and have him completely become engrossed with the entire failure of a student of his. I mean, I could understand Luke feeling that way, but I would also appreciate a Luke Skywalker who sought a solution to that problem. And we don't get that in The Last Jedi. We get a Luke who's cut off from the Force. He's cowering. He's hiding. He's afraid of the reality that Rey presents to him. He's clearly operating in a realm of fear. And as we all know, fear is the path to the dark side. And Luke Skywalker had already conquered all of that.
Yeah.
So why turn him back to square one? Why split up Han and Leia, JJ, if you want to really get to the bottom of some issues? Why destroy all the evolution the characters Han and Leia went through in the original trilogy? You put everybody back to square one. Luke living alone, isolated from the rest of the galaxy, just like he was at the beginning of A New Hope. Han on his own, smuggling with Chewie, really not having a purpose in life, just like he was when we met him at the beginning of A New Hope. Leia fighting a rebellion that seems to be very uphill against an evil, oppressive government. She's right there at the beginning of the sequel trilogy. Everything was a reset with The Force Awakens itself. So maybe we shouldn't always
de-evolution of the characters instead of any kind of evolution of the characters.
Right. Why are we, as an audience of Star Wars fans, too stupid to understand how that stuff works? So you had to put it all back to square one for us? I mean, really, the entire essence of the sequel trilogy in J.J. Abrams' hands, in Rian Johnson's hands, in Kathleen Kennedy's hands, is a complete dumbing down of the first 6 films that came before it. And it doesn't even have Jar Jar Binks in it. So think about that for a minute. Just think about that for a minute.
I would try, but I got nothing to add. I really don't.
Happy Thanksgiving.
That is a mic drop moment. It really is. It's a great way to summarize it all. But boy, has this been this has been so much fun. I could do shows like this all the time. Hearing from you all and then getting a chance to chat about it with great guy like Jimmy Mack, great Star Wars fan, great friend. It's Thanksgiving time. It's it's time to think about those things that you love, the people you love, the things that you love. And I love Rebel Force Radio. I love all of our listeners. I love my amazing co-host. Almost 20 years of this. And it's just awesome. And I'm so thankful, as I am each and every year, of the generosity, the kindness, and the commitment that you all express towards us. It's just, it's amazing. So thank you so much. Thank you. All right. More Rebel Force Radio coming at you next week in one form or another. So make sure you're checking that out. Also, we talked about Patreon, patreon.com/Rebel Force Radio, a great way to get more RFR into your life. And why wouldn't you want to? You can get things like the exclusive podcasts, the Q&A, the Babu Freaks, the RPG, all of that. Plus, you can get full show video of this very podcast that you're listening to right now. That's right. When we're talking about Luke Skywalker, you could be looking at a picture of us, looking at a picture of old man Luke from the sequel trilogy. Remember when they got Mark Hamill in really good shape and he'd be on the talk shows and be like, Mark Hamill looks the best he's looked in decades. And then we go to the movie and we see him and he looks just like, I don't know, just looks like Paul Bunyan or something. Grizzly Adams. He looked terrible. But boy, he looked great on set, So strange.
Whatever.
So weird. Anyway, patreon.com/Rebel Force Radio. Great way to get more RFR in your life. Also on YouTube, you can check us out, youtube.com/Rebel Force Radio. Follow us on all of the socials. We're on X, we're on Instagram, we are on Facebook. That's a great way to keep up with us, but the end-all, be-all of everything and all things Rebel Force Radio is rebelforceradio.com. Not only does it tell you what's going on the main feed, the main channel, what's happening in RFR, but also it brings you posts about what's going on the Patreon and all of that. So it's a great place to keep up with everything and all things RFR, rebelforceradio.com. So if you want to help us out this year, the next year, and all the years forward, please continue to listen to Rebel Force Radio and recommend it to your friends, the Star Wars fan in your life that maybe hasn't heard about RFR. I know it's inconceivable to you to think that a Star Wars fan hasn't heard about Rebel Force Radio, but you'd be surprised. And the great thing is nowadays you don't have to explain to them what a podcast is. They go, oh yeah, I listen to The Office Ladies. Anyway, check that out. Please recommend Rebel Force Radio to the fans and the friends in your life. If your podcatcher of choice allows you to subscribe, we'd love to have the subscriptions. Even better, we'd love to have your reviews with just one simple rule, please.
Make them good.
That'll be it. Have a wonderful, fantastic Thanksgiving. And this is just the start of the official holiday season here at Rebel Force Radio. More to come. We'll see you next time. For Rebel Force Radio, I'm Jason.
I'm Jimmy Mack.
And remember,
the Force will be with you, always.